So, if somebody has a popular podcast in the so called truther space, if they're a truth seeker and they have an audience, you would think that, they would act like a truth seeker, that they would have learned some lessons along the way that would give them the spiritual strength to question a paradigm that they have without emotionally reacting, to be honest with themselves and each other, to to even check their friends who are acting out of line. I've been on this truth seeking journey for since 2011, and if it's not clear yet to you, if you're just meeting me, I went through the radical left. That's actually my journey into the whole truth stuff. It started as just being a radical leftist and then learning that I've been lied to about some things, and then that unfolded into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's been quite the journey, and I've had to learn and mature along the way. And my this video is about this experience I just had, which was a learning experience for me, because I realized now that we all need to be careful about who we can trust. And that may be obvious to you, but within the truth community, I would expect the leaders to have a high level of integrity. And turns out that may not be the case in all situations. And I'll tell you a little bit about my story. So I've been hearing, and look, here's the thing. I'm actually not going to name names, and I'm not going to be, very super specific about what I'm talking about. But if you know, you know. Okay? And I've been told to my face that this will be corrected on one of the platforms, So I'm actually not going to get into the weeds into, is this real? Is this not real? What does this lead into? I'm going to be kind of like, this isn't that video. I will make that video if I have to, but I've been told they're gonna correct this. So if they want to do that, I would prefer that, actually. But regardless, I need to share a little bit about what just happened to me, okay? Because again, I'm listening to people on the internet and they're truth seekers, and hey, we believe in a whole set of similar beliefs or the same beliefs. Like I'm thinking we're aligned, right? And so if one of these guys who I look up to and respect and assume that I'm aligned with tells me, hey, there's this amazing thing that's going on. People are seeing through masks. They're seeing through blindfolds. And I hear him say that over and over again. And then he brings on somebody who talks about this whole thing where you can see through blindfolds. These kids are seeing through blindfolds. Well, okay, let's take a step back for a second. That sounds a little bit nutty, but so does 12 other beliefs that I now believe. Like, I'm an advanced level truther. I'm open for anything, So here was my mistake, though. Once, something's presented to you that is against what you've been taught or what you know, or it doesn't quite, it seems a little out there, you should probably look into it a little bit, right? Do your due diligence. Is there people debunking this online? That doesn't necessarily mean it's not legit, but you should probably listen to them. I didn't do that. I trusted somebody's word that these kids are seeing through blindfolds. It's amazing. Blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. Sign me up, man. So when I had an opportunity to, join this program, I literally didn't do any due diligence on my own. I leveraged who I thought was a trustworthy source. And that was my first mistake, or maybe my only mistake, really. I think it might be my only mistake here in this whole episode, but it's a big one. You need to be able to know that it's not just people who can, talk pretty and poetic on podcasts and who share your beliefs on certain things that you can trust. You need to see how they respond when shit hits the fan a little bit, when they're put under pressure, when they're pointed out something that's not right. You know, how do they respond when their friends acting out of line? These kinds of things, right? That's what I've decided. I'm not trusting anybody until I see them under some pressure. Because what happened here is I joined this program assuming these are true blindfolds, and they're not true blindfolds. That's the big bombshell, and it's probably not a bombshell for anyone that's done any lick of due diligence on this, okay? Because there's videos out there, and there have been videos debunking this for years. But somehow this stuff ends up in front of the whole truther community, and there are people apparently in the audience weeping, okay? Because they think these are true blindfolds, and they're not. Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics so much, but that's basically all you need to know. There's a way to see through these blindfolds, which calls into question the entire paradigm that they've now emotionally attached themselves to. Now, within the group, like, I'm, starting to bring up what I determine. And I determined that the blindfolds are see-through within a matter of minutes. Okay, it's not that hard. Once I looked at the blindfolds myself and did some simple tests, this was obvious. So, first of all, let's just stop there for a second. There's at least 3 men who have podcasts and audiences that put up in front of their audiences in the truth community that they could verify that kids were seeing through blindfolds. They didn't do any testing on the blindfolds themselves. And how do I know this? Because when I eventually gently, compassionately brought this up to them, like, hey guys, you can actually see through the blindfold, which is kind of a big deal. You know what their response to me was, these truth seekers? Whoa, Nico, you're being overly skeptical. Whoa. I've seen things that can't be explained by kids seeing through the blindfold, because I've seen it behind their head. I've seen this and that and the other. Did they for a second say, hey, Nico, that's a big deal? They admitted that they didn't realize that you can actually see through the blindfolds. They'd all admitted that. And yet, it doesn't matter, because they've seen things that aren't necessarily documented on video, in a way that is indisputable. But they've seen things, and so, small detail. The masks are blindfolded, small detail. Okay, so, again, I'm expecting a high standard from people who are leading the truth. They're not leading the truth community, but they have an audience, and in some ways they're leaders for that alone. Not to mention, hosting events or some sort of virtual community. So they are leaders. Okay, so these leaders completely dropped the ball on verifying that the masks are actually true blindfolds. And then me, don't really know these guys very well, come in and I'm just like gently trying to say, hey, the masks are blindfolds. They're telling me I'm overly skeptical, that it doesn't really matter, that they've seen XYZ. Some of them going so far as to absolutely character assassinating me, like saying that I'm some sort of bad actor in this group and I have ill intentions and I'm mentally deranged. And I'm talking about one of the podcast hosts, okay? I reach out to this guy privately to try and come to some mutual respect. Like, hey, you don't know me, I don't know you. We're probably going to be friends someday, frankly, because the truth community, there's only so many of us here. So please don't attack me and character assassinate me. Like, what are you doing right now? I'm simply bringing to your attention a few things, and I'm disagreeing that you've provided sufficient evidence that someone's seeing behind their head. Like that video that you just shared that you're referencing, Not exactly conclusive. He has an emotional breakdown, refuses to talk to me. He never responds to any of my private messages, tells people I'm crazy and to not talk to me. This is a leadership. This is a leader. People have respect for this person. Do I have respect for this person? Obviously not anymore. I mean, the whole time I'm like, hey, man, we're on the same team. This is friendly fire I'm experiencing. Please put down your gun. I'm on your team. Still no response from that guy. Pure ad hominem attacks to me in front of a bunch of other people. And I'm like, hey, man, can you tell me what I'm doing wrong here, or like where I've misstepped? Or I'm simply saying that the masks are not true blindfolds, and that kind of changes things. And you all presented it that they were. So meanwhile, does anybody check this guy that's completely out of line? Nope, not really. They just allow him to completely character assassinate me. Even though some of them I've talked to private, like outside of this whole thing, I've talked to them. They kind of know me. And they're still not even going to stand up to this guy and say, hey, man, you're out of line here. As far as I can tell, the guy still hasn't apologized. It's been days now. And it's just not going to happen, I think. I mean, the point of all this, though, you know, I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here. But to take a step back, like, I didn't do my due diligence, and I trusted somebody who has a platform and an audience in the truth community, and I thought I could trust them. Now am I going to trust this person anymore? No, not really. Do I think he's some sort of plant or something? Nope. I think he was duped and is being immature about the reality that I've brought to him. And he'll listen to this. I know he will. Guess what, man? I love you, but like, not only did I can't catch you with your pants down, but you just fumbled ever since. You still haven't, to this moment, been like, hey, man, you're right. You can see through the blindfolds, and that's a big deal. How's that? Isn't that like basic, like, acknowledgement? Like, hey, you brought some truth to me. That's important. It changes this paradigm. Like, I actually misrepresented stuff in front of the truth community, and maybe I have a responsibility to correct that. And actually, I expect that forthcoming. And if it doesn't come, I'll be making another video that'll be a little bit more explicit. But here's the gift for me personally, and this actually ties into some of my older videos from 6 months ago or however long ago. It's been a little bit of time. Not that long, I guess. A few months. But I've been really actually thinking about this intentional community idea and going like, you know what? The more I think about it, like, you just need some basic agreements. And then maybe you need a freaking leader, actually. Instead of trying to have consensus. Like, I come from anarchist spaces. Like, that's kind of like in my nature is like questioning the authority and all that stuff. At the same time, like, effective organizations and businesses and everything, like, they have leaders, right? So I've been wondering for some time now, like, hey, is this something I want to try and collaborate with people and like, or is this just something I want to be the leader, present the vision, invite people into this? And as long as you're trusting me and my vision for this, like, trust that I will handle anybody that ends up being spiritually weak, like causing drama in the community unnecessarily. Those people will be removed. If they're not agreeing to the agreements, eventually there will be a clause that they're removed, and there's just a leader that makes that call. As an anarchist leaning person, like, I don't love that idea, but I've been struggling with this for some time because I'm like, you know what? That would probably be way more efficient, effective. I don't want to get bogged down in dealing with spiritually weak people. You know, you might walk the walk. You might talk the talk even better than I can. You might have put on, you know, you might have an audience bigger than I do. But can you walk the walk when the shit gets a little heated, you know? When we're in the trenches hacking at trying to get to the truth, you can act like a man? I need people that are like that, and I need to, like, there's only so many of us. is what I've discovering, unfortunately. And but yeah, anyway, the gift to me here is like, hey, these are guys that like, hey, I expected like, hey, maybe I'd be talking to them about starting something or joining forces and stuff, and it's like, wow, this is the guys, doing these things here, and this is how they act. This is what they get duped into, and then they start, they can't even like admit they were wrong, and that it's a big deal. I'm just flabbergasted. And what it means to me, or the gift for me, is like, hey, Nico, you can actually be a better leader than these guys. And if this is the leadership in the truth community, like maybe you need to do, maybe you step up and do this on your own. And when I say on my own, I simply mean like as a leader, inviting people into your vision and holding people accountable. And I'm not perfect. And I invite criticism. I've been inviting criticism this whole time from these guys. Like, can you please explain to me what I'm doing that's so mentally deranged, other than like candidly with personality calling you out on your ad hominem attacks and like your other ways that you're trying to sweep this under the rug? So let this be the little marker point on this particular video channel of where I go, hey man, this intentional community, I think I'm just going to be the leader, and I'm going to vet people, and I'm going to see people in the heat of the moment, and no one has to act perfect. You might get stuff wrong. I've gotten many things wrong. I invite criticism at any point. Challenge my beliefs. If you got something better, I'm adaptable. And in fact, if a leader comes along that can carry the vision that I have for an intentional community better than I can, and acts with more integrity than I do, I'll probably step aside. But at this point, this lesson for me is like, I might be the best we got, guys. Sorry, this mountain pirate, does he have all this shit together? No, but I'll tell you one thing, I'm not going to act like a spiritual child when it comes to people challenging my beliefs on something. I'm not going to get so wrapped up into some fantasy that like the kids are coming to save the world that I'm going to like not study the mask that they can supposedly see through and then attack the guy that comes and points out, hey man, it's see-through. Like we as a group of truthers, like I don't even really know, to be honest, how this thing has gone on as long as it has in this parts. Like, will the real truthers please stand up? Like, that's how I feel. Like, hello? This is in our community? People blatantly lying about these blindfolds and then pretending like it's not a big deal? These are the leaders? Leaders, but you know what I mean. On some level, they have a responsibility. If you have an audience and you're calling yourself a truther, okay, and your podcast is oriented towards us, people like me, who actually do care that you're lying to people. And actually, I did it in a way that was kind and like playful for a while until people pushed me over the edge by acting like I'm some sort of enemy of the truth, and I'm in here to just stir drama, or like I don't have the right vibes. I'm too skeptical. No, everybody. The mask is see-through and you all pretended like it wasn't. It's a big deal, actually. And someday these guys are going to figure that out. And I do deserve an apology from each and every one of them, as far as I'm concerned. But and I'm going to have my missteps too, but it's like being wrong is one thing. Doubling down on that, acting like children and like character assassinating people from your own emotional reactivity is like unacceptable in this community. That's what I like. We need to have higher standards. And again, I'm not perfect, but like hold me to a high standard too. like, can we lift each other up and like call each other out? That's what I'd like. I'd like a bunch of, and by the way, it's a bunch of men. It's often the men that I have take issue with. I don't know why, but they feel the need to like shut down me. And I'm like, why don't you guys like take a step back and process what I'm saying? Anyway, this is a rant. This is a sharing of a lesson though, and it's also like, this is the moment when I decided to be the leader of the intentional community. Okay, that I'm gonna create, probably called the Robin's Nest, and I'll get to that later. But there's two major things that happen. One is that I found out that the guy who ran the primitive skills workshop and one of my best friends don't like each other because of bullshit reasons. That I was like, man, these are the two guys I'd love behind me if I was to do this locally, and they don't even like each other because of dumbass reasons. And then okay, whatever. Well, at least, there's truthers I can kind of link up with, right? And then I link up with them and I find out they're peddling nonsense. And then when I point it out to them, they act like spiritual children. All right, then. In that case, I'm just going to freaking do this on my own. In a sense. Obviously not actually on my own, but you see what I mean. Like, I need to know, like, I trust myself. I trust like a handful of other people. But you got to earn my trust at this point. Just because you share ideas with me. Like this guy, I already have crazy ideas. Remember that. So the idea that kids are seeing through blindfolds, like, I stupidly just thought that would. And by the way, just for the record, psychic phenomena, yeah, probably real. There's a lot of evidence for that. But you can't just conflate the two. Just because psychic phenomena exists and you've seen some doesn't mean that a mask doesn't mean you can call a blindfold when it's not. I mean, those two things are not connected. Okay. All right. Thanks for listening.